morning. My name is Matt Smith. I'm with United Energy Products. We're the rep for the Fulton Vantage boilers. We're here at Loudoun County High School number 7. I'm going to go over the operating controls, safeties, and the maintenance of the boilers. If at any point in time you have a question, please feel free to ask me and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Excuse me. This is a Vantage 3 million. It's a low emissions burner. It is a mesh style burner. Just to keep all the green aspects of combustion down. As far as components on the boiler, we're just going to go straight through the gas train controls. And again, if you have a question, ask me. Gas train we're coming through on this, right off of the main. On the back side of it is your pilot gas assembly. This pilot is feeding a pilot tube that's right next to the burner. All right, it's a built-in ignition electrode and gas tube all at the same time. All right. Up top, just above that, you have your UV flame scanner, and then there is also a sight port into the burner. And when you're looking through there, when it's running, you can see right down the mesh tube assembly going through. All right. Got a just typical gas train regulator. Both high and low gas pressure switches are mounted on the front with a reset plunger on the face of the switch. Got an automatic main gas solenoid. When this does go to light, this will light up also and let you know that it's energized. We're coming through a gas butterfly on the gas train, which is being controlled by an actuator motor. Both the gas and the air side are on actuators. All right. Coming through, going in the burner, lighting off. It's a 2-pass boiler. Flames going down, returning, comes back, drops down into the lower chambers. These are 2 chambers on here. Goes out and through the exhaust. All right. These are a condensing boiler, and later I'll show you the trap on the back side of it. All the condensing aspects of it take care of in that second pass. The boiler can operate in a couple different ways. It can operate via remote signal, or it can operate in standalone operation. And we've got 2 different controllers on here. The little display screen one here is an SC500. We actually call it a mini mod sink because it's the same as the control panel that we'll go over that's on the wall. Everything that you do as far as standalone operation, temperature set points, firing rates, if you're doing a manual set point, will all be done through this display. It's all a touch screen, and it has the categories of your system status, and I'm just going to read this off because you all can't see it at the same time. System status, set point configuration, system configuration, boiler config, PID logic, and alarm status. System status is probably the most frequent screen that you'll go to on it. It's going to tell you what the current combustion air temperature is because we are registering that due to the fact it's a low emissions boiler. Your outlet temperature, what your current set point is, and within that line next to set point, it's going to tell you where that set point is coming from. Right now it says mod sync because you're working in a remote operation and it's coming from the panel on the wall. If you were to change it to local, it would say SC500, meaning that this is controlling your temperature and your firing rates. It's also going to show you a control variable. It's just a process number saying that between what the set point is and what current rate of fire is, this is our percentage that we're looking to operate from. Below that, it's also going to tell you the boiler status, whether it's an auto or manual operation. It will also enunciate what the firing rate is, whether you put it in there manually or remote set point. And then also your flame signal strength is on there too. Anytime, excuse me, anytime you're on a screen with this, if you hit the escape button, it'll take you back to the main menu. You can go to your set point configuration, and it strictly shows you what your minimum and maximum loop temperature are, and that'll show on the left side of the screen. To make any adjustments to that, you would just touch the little box it'll come up with a keypad, and you can adjust that temperature and then hit the enter button, which is a little bent arrow. On the right side of the screen it says control mode. Control mode is going to tell you whether the mod sync is operating or whether the controller itself is doing it, and that's where you would switch between the two. Then there's also the set point itself. If you were going to lock in, say for some reason they wanted just to set them at 150 degrees and let them run flat on their own, you would enter that temperature here and it would do its own thing. Any questions on any of this so far? No? Okay. Your system configuration screen, really in anything that you're going to have to get in there and do, that's all pre-set up when the job is started. And that's just showing the different value ranges for 4 to 20 inputs from the panel. Also just some inside things here, your screen brightness and things of that nature. Yeah, that's pretty much all that's in there that you would need to get to. Your boiler configuration. Some of these things are slightly redundant. You can control things from 2 different locations. But from here you can change whether it's an automatic mode or manual. You can also start and stop it from this screen. Again, you'd only be doing that if you were doing maintenance on it, going through your combustion. You want to run it up to high fire, mid fire, wherever you want to go, you can adjust that here. And again, any adjustments that you make are a matter of touching that box, selecting it, keyboard comes up and you enter those values. In the event that there is a flame failure, both the flame programmer, which we'll go over in a second here, and the SC500 are going to enunciate alarm. On the SC500, if it's saying alarm and flashing across the top, you would go to the alarm status screen. It'll say, it'll give you some indication. This is not a diagnostic tool, but it'll tell you that it went out and when it went out. And there's a button that says alarm acknowledge. That's your clear button. You can also get to the alarm history, and it'll bring it up and it saves the last 8 fault histories, and it'll give you a date and a time for any history keeping that you're keeping on the boilers. Any questions on that? No. I'm sorry?
How does it light off?
How does it light off, or what's the sequence?
What's the sequence and how does it? What is it?
The sequence of how the boiler lights off, it's going to get a heat demand. It's going to drive to high fire for 30-second purge. It's going to drive back down to low fire. Once it makes that low fire position, it's going to energize the pilot solenoid. Pilot will light off. Once that flame's established within 10 seconds, then it's going to energize the main gas valves. Right. Yeah, once it goes to main to run status, then it's going to modulate up to wherever it needs to based on the temperature. Okay? All right. With regards to the other display here, it's a Siemens LMV36 system. This is just your display and interaction module with the flame programmer, which is inside the unit. So this is the entirety of it here. All right. Nothing on here that you can adjust or anything. It's all through the controller. Through this, you can track the history of the boiler as far as start cycles, run cycles. If there is a flame failure, it will flash across the screen. It'll say LOCC, meaning code, and to give you a code number. And then it'll flash LOCD, which is a diagnostic, and it'll give you a value for that. If you have that situation and you're trying to see what's going on, you need to refer to the manual on the boiler, because everything is in parameter numbers. It's going to give you a code, then you can find out what it is. It doesn't spell it out for you. Wish it did, but it doesn't. And you can scroll through that. To reset this, there is a reset button here. You just hold that down for a moment. It'll come up, say reset, and then go back in to normal operation as long as the problem's been solved. all of your firing rate or your combustion adjustments when it comes time to do the tune-up are done through the controller. Now, do you guys do the actual tune-ups on all of your boilers?
Boilers here we have, it's a Tuscarora. They haven't been serviced in about 2 years.
I know. So is that the answer to the question?
Yeah, we don't touch these. We don't know nothing about it.
Okay.
We're at no training, bar service. We're supposed to be giving y'all a call anytime this week. Get y'all come out and service that to your boilers.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Is there much maintenance to that?
What's that?
Is there a lot of maintenance to it?
No, there's not a lot of maintenance on these. I'll go over the quick schedule on it, but as far as anything major on them, no. Just to jump ahead to the key point of that question of how much maintenance, once a year you do a combustion tune-up on it, on these, which comprises of pulling the burner out, brushing it off just with your hand or a rag, blowing it off. Don't ever use any kind of wire brushes or anything like that because it will damage the mesh on there. Make sure it's all clean, put it back together, and then you would go through your combustion analysis, make sure that your gas pressures are the same, check your combustion, make sure everything's in good operating order. This isn't like a typical fire tube boiler where you're opening it up and brushing it out and everything. I think the only ones of the Vantage boilers that you ever get into a situation of having to brush out tubes is on some of the dual fuels where they're firing oil. If things were to get out of whack, you'd want to clean it. But that schedule is much further spread apart than a normal fire tube is, just by the way they burn. All right. But with this controller, again, this is where you would do your combustion setting. There is a process to get through it with a passcode. Unless you find that you're going to do it, we'll keep that to ourselves for right now. Just some people like to go in and push buttons. So until everybody's real sure what's going on, we'll keep that to ourselves, just for everybody's safety. But when you do get into it, it has the buttons that are on front of here, two of them, one says F, one says A. When you're in that mode, F is fuel, A is air. And you would hold one and increase it or decrease it just to adjust that actuator motor.
When you get that combustion analysis and your gas pressure right, how efficient is it?
The efficiency on these, you're running in the upper 80s, low 90s. Yeah. Yep. Because again, they are full modulating and they are condensing, so you're always going to get the greater efficiencies out of them. Other buttons that are on here, you've got several different things. You've got a low water test switch. This is a test and reset. Or no, I'm sorry, this one's a test, this is a reset. They keep changing them on me. So you can trip out your water level relay, which is a large clear ice cube relay in here. I don't want to hold the alarm silence down. If you hold the button down, it's going to trip that relay out. Then it's going to light up the light on top. Just press that to reset it. That is something that you want to test on maybe a weekly or monthly basis, just to make sure the system's working properly. This does have an alarm horn on it and a silence button. That's the most important part of the alarm, is the silence. It's just a little 24 volt. If you utilize them other than what you're picking up from building management, the tops of these turn open and close like an air gate, so if you want it really screaming at you, you can make it louder. There's also a flame safeguard reset. You can hold this down and reset the system. Just going right to here works a lot quicker. Just goes through a couple-minute process of thinking for itself. Inside the cabinet, most of what's in here is just circuit relays. There is a VFD in here which is controlling the combustion air motor. The combustion air motor on these is a single speed operation, but the VFD is there for the low emissions aspect of it. And it's based on what it's seen as an outside air temp, or what the combustion air temperature is. So when it's hotter outside, the fan's going to spin a little faster. When it gets cold outside, it's going to slow down. All right, and it's only changing by about 5 hertz. It's not making much of a change at all. There isn't any programming that you need to do on that. In the event that there is something wrong with it, it does have a reset button on it, or the start button will clear it out, as long as there's nothing major going on with it. But there's nothing that you need to adjust on it. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Yeah, display, that comes off the frequency drive.
The what?
The little display, does that come off?
It can, yes, but each drive has its own display, so there's no need to take it off.
So if we had to replace that, can it's programmed in that display?
Yes,
So we would have to put the display right
yes. All right. The question was the display that's on the frequency drive. If there was a failure of the drive, can the display be changed out with the new drive to carry on the programming? And the answer to that is yes, it can. The display does hold the program. Only other thing we have in here that plays into any controls is a little Siemens module here, which is strictly for Modbus communication. All of the wiring between the boilers and the ModSync panel go by way of Modbus, so it does convert that signal so it can be properly read. There are fuses in the system. We've got 3 fuses for the 3-phase on the VFD for the blower motor, and there is step-down fuses for control voltage coming in. Any questions? No? All right. What else we have? All right, some other safeties on the front of the boiler. Not everything is all high-tech electronics. We still have some typical Honeywell aquastats. One is a high limit. The other is an operator. This operator is only there for CSD1 code reasons, and it's a buffer between your high limits on the system and the high limit itself. That way, if the temperature surpassed the electronic side of it, that operator would try to catch it before it got to the high limit, which is a manual reset. Just to keep people from having to chase things around if you're having stacking issues for some reason. Maintenance-wise on this, daily you just want to come by, take a look at them, see that your operating temperatures are correct. If you're not seeing anything odd, take a look at the flame, make sure it looks good. Monthly, you want to go through, check your safeties like the low water that we just went over. You also want to check your high and low gas pressure switches, just trip those out. Also, this does have an air filter on it for the combustion air, which is located right in here. It's a metal frame filter. You need a screwdriver to sort of get it out. It doesn't have a handle or anything on it. Just pry that out, make sure it's clean. Knock out any debris that's picked up. You can wash them out with some warm soapy water. Don't use any kind of solvents or anything on it, or any oils.
Is that once a year?
Once a month. Once a month you want to clean the air filter. Okay? If that's the hardest thing you got to do in the day, you're all right. But yeah, you want to make sure that it stays clear. If you get any particulates that come through, anything that can get into the burner, it can have an effect on how efficiently it works, or if it'll even light, especially on the pilot side. The design of that pilot, like I was explaining earlier, it's just a tube all the way through, then it has an orifice tube for the gas, and then the ignition electrode. If you were to get any heavy particulates to go through that, there's a ceramic spacer and diffuser at the end of it that if you got dirt or something that got in there, it can block up the passages, and it would create problems with it lighting off. Then you'd have to pull the pilot assembly out and blow it all out. So changing the air filter is a lot easier, or cleaning it. All right. In the event that the air filter gets worn, you need parts for any of this stuff. Our phone number is on the front of your book there. You can call us. If we don't have the parts in stock, we can have them shipped directly from the factory. Okay? I'm sorry?
We'll give our parts down.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get one. All right, any questions on the front of the unit? All right. No sense walking around the back, but I'll just explain it. Again, these are condensing boilers, so any condensate that forms within the vessel itself or in the flue is designed to come back and drain out of the unit. All 3 boilers are common piped. They're going over to a condensate trap can that has a float valve in it with fresh water coming in. That serves a couple purposes. One, the can is a trap. The water staying in it keeps that common header across the boiler is flooded. That way a running boiler isn't going to be able to push exhaust gases into an idle boiler. It's also a drain, and again, just keep any exhaust gases from getting into the room. I call it the glorified toilet bowl. Works the same way. That's something that you want to take a look at every now and then. Make sure it's not building up a lot of solids within it. If it is, just scrape it out, vacuum it out, whatever the case may be. Always make sure that the water supply is turned on to it. You know, nobody's come by and hit the valve and shut it off. It dries out, and now it's not doing what it's supposed to do. All right. Back to the maintenance aspect of it. Weekly, monthly, you sort of base it on the outside conditions. Along with checking your air filter, you want to go and take a look at your intake terminations. They are screened. You want to make sure nothing's gotten pulled up against them. They've got pretty heavy mesh on these, but we get really hard pollen during the spring or something, it gets sucked into it and blocks it off. That will have an effect on how the boilers run. Make sure no birds have tried to make their home up in it. You also want to check your vent line terminations for your gas side, and also take a look at the exhaust to make sure everything's clear up top. All right. Is there any other questions on the boiler?
Are those grease ports on those motors?
No. Well, yeah, this one does have it. They used to have vents on them, but yeah, there is a grease port. They don't really have too much of a schedule on greasing them. If you want to hit them, just a quick shot, 6 months, maybe a year, you'd be fine with that. Yeah, the old ones just had air vents on them. That's why I didn't think there was a grease on her. So, all right. I think that covers it on the boilers, unless anyone's digging up any other thoughts there. Well, we're going to move over to the ModSync panel, and we'll take a look at that, and then we'll wrap it up from there. All right, now we're going to cover the ModSync sequencing control. This is handling all operations of the boiler system as far as its lead lag, its system temp maintenance. This can also, and is also operating with a signal from building management. All right. They have the ability to enable, disable the panel, give it a remote set point based on what their outdoor reset schedule is, or single points set points. When you come up to the panel, you look at it, you think, all right, something wrong with it because the screen's not lit up. It does have a screensaver. You can either just touch the screen or touch any of the buttons and it'll bring it up. System status, again, there's a lot of similarities of this controller with the SC500 that's on the boiler. But system status is going to tell you, excuse me, what your outdoor air temperature is, your current loop temperature, your loop set point, and to the right of that it's going to tell you who's controlling that set point. Right now it says remote set point, meaning building management is given that value. And then again the control variable, which is just a process number for firing rate. We have 3 boilers here. It's showing you that you've got 3. And you can bring up any one of them, just touch the boiler. Excuse me. It'll tell you what the status is. Right now it's disabled by ModSync. Remote's disabled. So building management has it off right now. It'll tell you which boiler is in lead lag position, what its current firing rate is, its outlet temperature, which is just a retransmit signal from the boiler, how many start cycles, and how many run hours. And it'll also give you a cycle to hour ratio just for maintenance reminders. The other side of the screen is going to show you, we're looking at Vantage 1. Right now it's disabled. It is in automatic mode, and it does have an interface with the SC500 controller on the boiler. So it knows what systems it's talking to. The LMV control, the LMV again is the flame programmer, is being controlled by the ModSync panel itself. From here, again, you can also operate this in manual. As long as everything's enabled, you can change your mode from auto to manual. You can start it and stop it from here and give it a firing rate. Again, you can utilize that when you're doing a tune-up, or if you just want to check the operation of the system to make sure that it's communicating properly. Because again, it's all Modbus communication. You can also go through and look at your outdoor reset schedule. Now, the outdoor reset's only going to work if the panel is selected to work in ModSync, where it's not looking for building management. So you can set your occupied and unoccupied temperatures, your highs and your lows. Press the next screen. You can set your minimum and maximum loop temperature. This also has an outdoor temp disable, which currently is set at 120. The only reason it's there is so it does not conflict with building management. If building management was at 65 and somebody set this at 60, just to drop it out. It will override that value. And then there's an outdoor temp deviation value, 5 degrees above or below whatever that set point is. Your set point mode, like I said on the system status screen where it said system set point, remote set point, you can change that from right here. If you press that, it'll come up, it'll say BMS, which is just another configuration for it to come in on. Manual, you want it at single set point. And if you have it in manual, your manual set point adjustment's here. And again, to change a value, it's not going to let me do it right. Oh, yes it is. Change a value, just touch it till you see it flashing. So you want to move it to 150, it was at 130. Enter that, then the crooked arrow is your enter button. So now if you leave it in manual, it's always going to maintain that 150. And I'm going to put it back so I don't forget. If you scroll to where it says ModSync, now the ModSync is going to handle the outdoor reset. So it just ignores everybody else. This has the ability to handle domestic hot water priority. We're not utilizing the system as such, but if they decided they wanted to in the future, it can do it. Lead lag controls. This is doing just that. It's going to control what your rotation of lead boiler is based on cycles or hours, whichever comes first. It'll also give you a quick status screen on the right here. Everything's disabled at the moment. Go to the next screen. You can set your timing in here for when your lag boiler is going to come on, when it's going to go off, based on time, temperature, and firing rate. So you can adjust. It'll say if lead boiler is at 25% or better, it's going to look at the lag boiler to come in. Once it has that thought, then it's going to say, okay, I've got a 2-minute lag delay. At the end of that 2 minutes, if lead boiler hasn't satisfied what we need, we're going to bring that lag boiler on. These will operate in parallel operation. So a lot of people think, you know, why do I have 3 boilers running at low fire? The reason is 3 boilers at low fire is a lot more efficient and a lot more cost savings than 1 boiler at a high rate of fire. So don't be surprised if you see 2 or 3 on, even when you wouldn't think anything would be on. That question has come up a couple times this morning, but they're doing a humidification with these also, so they're going to be on even if it's 100 degrees outside. You can also adjust the PID logic, which is going to control how fast your modulation occurs. I've got these set pretty tight to where it's going to get down to low fire at a pretty quick rate. Purpose for that is smoother system trending, and also so we're not overshooting our temperatures and creating a lot of cycle rates on the units. We also have an outlet temperature configuration on here, which says if the outlet temperature of a boiler exceeds set point by 15 degrees, automatically, regardless of where its firing rate is, knock it down to 0. Again, it's just to maintain a better system and keep them from cycling. Then once that temperature drops below set point, then it will allow it to go back into its normal modulation values. We also have a setback schedule. for your occupied, unoccupied time. Standard on this is 6 in the morning to 8 in the evening during the week, and 6 to 4 on the weekends. When building management is controlling it via remote set point and they're enable, disable, this doesn't come into play. It will if the ModSync's operating it or if it's in manual set point. This is all adjustable. Again, just touch it, enter it, and you're done with it. For the winter time, you go to the next screen, it'll bring on, if it's operating on its own outdoor reset schedule or its setback schedule, you can say if the temperature gets below 15 degrees or 20 degrees outside, to bring the boilers on an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier. That way it gives more time to warm the building up before the kids get in. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay. In the event that there is an alarm on a boiler, it will show alarm here. This is not a diagnostic tool. The only diagnostic tool is that little AZL display on there. But what this will say is, either I wanted a boiler on and it wasn't available for whatever reason, a limit was tripped on it, which is not an alarming circuit, but it never saw the main gas valve energized, it'll put it into alarm. If the boiler has an actual alarm, it sends a signal over and it's going to enunciate alarm. It'll say alarm across the top, and again you hit the alarm status button, it'll come up, it'll say boiler 2 COM error or whatever the case may be. Hit the alarm acknowledge button, it'll bring that boiler back into sequence. You can also check the alarm history. Again, it saves the last 8 fault histories, and it'll give you a time, which boiler, the date, and what it believes happened. So it's a good reference tool to say, okay, I don't have any alarms here, but the boiler's out. What's it thinking? It just gives you a general direction to go in so you're not just staring at it. This panel does have its own alarm, same as the one that's on the boiler, so it's got the horn here, the silence button here. There isn't, I don't think there's anything in here. No, nothing inside to show you, it's just all circuit relays and a power module. The entire brains of this panel is everything that's in the door here. So that's what I have for you on the ModSync. If you have any questions, please ask. And if not, I appreciate your time. All right. And again, my name is Matt Smith. I'm with United Energy Products. If you have any service questions or parts needs, you can always give us a call. I've supplied the numbers with you on the operations manuals, and we're there for you.